So let's start coding. All I've done here is I've added a JavaScript file called app.js. So if we go to our index and we go to the bottom, we actually need to add a script, don't we? And we've called it app.js. So there we go. And I've just created an empty app.js file in the same directory as all the others, the index and the styles.css. That's all I've done. The first thing I want to do is I want us to take this in a piecemeal manner. I want us to just tackle each piece slowly but surely. So the first thing I want to do is I want us to be able to delete an item from the list. If we go to our browser, here we go, you can see we've got these delete buttons. And of course, right now, when we click on them, nothing happens. So let's deal with this first. How would we go about doing it? Firstly, I want to show you the inefficient way to do it. And then I want you to pause the video and I want you to try and utilize event bubbling and event delegation. But first, let's go with kind of the inefficient approach, which you may see a lot in developers' code. That's why I want you to be aware of it. So here we are back in our text editor. How can we do this? Well, firstly, I want to label our code. So let's just have stars here and let's go delete items. Right, and I'll just copy this so it's the same length. There we go. And one way to do it is to add event listeners to each one of those buttons. So the first step would be to grab all of those buttons, right? And we can do that by defining a variable called buttons. Let me just zoom in here so you can see a bit better. We want to access the documents. On there, we've got the query selector all. On the query selector all, we want to grab the outer div called grocery list. And on there, we want to grab each one of those li elements. But remember, it needs a class of delete. So let's go to class of delete. And if we console log this out to the screen, let's go here. And if we inspect this, we go to the console, we should see a node list. And our node list is here and it's got 4 items, doesn't it? And it's each one of those buttons. So there we go, we've got access to the buttons. Let's go back to our text editor. And the old school inefficient way is to loop through each button and add event listeners to it. How do we do that? Well, even in the recap video previously, I showed you that we could access this for each method. So let's do that. Let's access our buttons variable, and then we can access this for each method. We can grab each button in the for each loop, and then we can do things to it. And in this instance, we want to grab that button and we want to add an event listener. The event we want to listen for on each button is a click event. And then of course we want to execute our handler. Remember that handler function gets given an event object, which we define in a variable called e. By the way, I'm just executing our event handler directly within this function. Now, what happens when the user clicks on that button is we want to navigate to the parent, don't we? And then we want to delete that parent. So what we want to do is we want to define a new variable. We want to define a variable called li, for example, because it's kept within an li element. And this li element is going to be the target, right? The button we've just clicked on. And it's going to be its parent element. Does that make sense? So remember what we've done. The user's clicked on that button. We've now navigated to the li tag that it's within. And let's say now we want to use the old school remove child method. How do we do that? Remember in this course we've seen this? Well, it's kind of weird because we get to the li, we then have to access its parent and then remove its child in order to remove itself. I know, it sounds weird. So we have to access our li variable. We have to then access its parent element. And then we can remove child. And of course, the child we want to remove is itself. Whew. So let's see if this code works before we start improving on it. Let's go to our browser and let's try and remove sugar and spice. It's not working. What have I done wrong? Let's go to the console, type error, remove child is not a function. Remove child is not a function. Why? Oh. Should be a capital C. Whew, this is where the JavaScript parser is excruciatingly accurate. So there you go, we've put a capital C that should work. Let's try and remove sugar and spice. And it's removed. How cool. Something to drink, pizza, and milk. There we go, we've deleted everything. How awesome. But as I mentioned, let's go to our code. This isn't the most efficient way to do it. I want you to stop the video here. You know what, I'll actually stop the video here. In the next lecture, we'll do the new and improved way of doing the exact same thing. But we're going to be utilizing event bubbling and event delegation. But before I give away the solution, give it a think, and in the next lecture, we'll code it up together.